On today's episode,
Jamie Crawford published an article really doing a deep dive into this club called The Box.
So here's that article you can see here. Glenn Dubin was in the same area as Ghislaine Maxwell, Andre Balazs, Katie Ford. Here's Ghislaine and Jeffrey. There's reasonable evidence that shows that Jeffrey Epstein was there that day, hanging out with Andre Balazs and Katie Ford and Ghislaine Maxwell. That's a curious connection there, once again showing a principal founder of The Box having ties to Epstein over 10, almost 20 years prior.
What we're trying to do here with this as we make our way through this documentary is provide some context. Thinking that a place like The Box even exists might be difficult to wrap your head around, but really adding that critical lens.
You don't need a formal conspiracy when interests
Hey guys, welcome back. We're doing the Epstein Club, the most disturbing deep dive on YouTube. I don't know what part I'm on at this point. I think this is like our 5th episode of this so far. Apologies for the background noise. I don't know if the mic is going to pick that up. I should maybe rethink my audio strategy, but my neighbor is doing some work outside, it sounds like. So unfortunately, you may hear some background noise. I'll do my best to try and keep that to a minimum when I do the editing. Anyways, we are making our way through a sort of documentary by the Conspiracy Files YouTube channel named The Conspiracy Files, a gentleman named Colin Brown. Video is called The Epstein Club, the most disturbing deep dive on YouTube. Like I said, we're about the 5th part at this point. Last time we talked a little bit about and I should say this documentary, that this YouTube channel, what he's doing is reading through an article on Substack by a guy named Jamie Crawford. Jamie Crawford published an article sometime earlier this year, really doing a deep dive into this club called The Box that is in New York, and has done his best effort at sort of identifying some very suspicious relationships between The Box and its not its proprietors, but people who run it and own it, and their relationship with Epstein, and some of the activity that seems to have, gone on at The Box, allegedly. All of this is alleged for entertainment purposes only. Nothing we say on this channel is true. It's all satire. We just make everything up here. We're liars. Don't believe us. That being said, last couple of episodes, I've really been sort of honing in on some of the things that I think Jamie Crawford did not do a good job of on his article. Again, I want to say, and I'll say this every episode, he's done tremendous work, and he's the one on the ground in the trenches in this case, really taking the hits. He is being sued, apparently, by The Box. So go give this guy a follow. His Substack, the link to his Substack will be in the description below. Please go support the guy, because without him, Colin Brown wouldn't have made this video. I wouldn't be making my video. So he's really the one that deserves the most credit. Also, go give Conspiracy Files a follow. They're a huge channel. You've probably heard of them. They've got, nearly 500,000 subscribers. So the guy's really blown up over the past couple of years. I've been a fan of his content for a while. I think he has multiple channels. I think he has the Paranormal Files as well. Doing some good work. But while we want to support those who are taking the risks and doing the hard work, it doesn't exclude them from criticism, right? This isn't a team sport. We're not out here trying to form narratives and sacrificing our values and principles for the sake of pushing a story. So we want to call out things that aren't done well so that we can learn from them and do them better in the future ourselves, or avoid those pitfalls as we talk about these types of things. Some of the stuff I think that he hasn't done well that we've talked about in previous episodes was his need to connect, what's his name? Josh Lucas, who's on the celebrity board of The Box, along with Rachel Wise, who was in The Mummy, and God, I'm blanking on his name. Jude Law. was the other guy. And Josh Lucas was in the article for a bit, and it seemed like they really were trying to paint Josh Lucas in a certain light by showing him with, young women of age, 19-year-old Danish supermodel, they show him. To me, that's really disingenuous. I mean, look, you can say that that's immoral, a 43-year-old man dating a 19-year-old girl. You could say that there's something wrong with him or whatever, right? But it's legal. Whether you like it or not, it's legal. And let's be frank, it's a tale as old as time. It's nothing new. This isn't something to write home about. And whether you're a 43-year-old man or a 19-year-old girl, I think in both instances, what they're doing is pretty understandable, frankly, right? Like, looking at that woman they showed Josh Lucas with, she's stunning. She's stunningly beautiful. What man wouldn't want to date that woman, regardless of how old they are, right? And let's be honest, Josh Lucas isn't a bad-looking dude. He's real tall, he's real good-looking, and he's a rich, famous Hollywood actor. He's in all kinds of movies and stuff. What 19-year-old girl would turn that down, right? Like, I'm sure some, in both cases, right? Whether you're the man or the woman in this situation. But it's not particularly fascinating to me, and it really distracts from the points. When you put weak points in your argument, it opens the argument up to attack and dismissal by those who are trying to push an opposing narrative. So removing something like this from the conversation, I think you're better served at just removing it entirely. There were some issues as well with a screenshot that was provided. The screenshot I thought was really interesting because it has it's a screenshot of Epstein, supposedly where we're assuming this is where Epstein is at the time. He's known to have been in Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia. I think Abu Dhabi is in Saudi Arabia, and somewhere in the Middle East. And he sends Maxwell a screenshot of his phone and a pin dropped. It's like it's a Google Maps or something, and it's a pin drop. And then in the search bar, he writes 189 Christie. And 189 Christie happens to be the same address as this club, The Box in New York. It's in 189 Christie Street or whatever. Now, that's very interesting. That's suggestive of something. It's not a smoking gun evidence or whatever, but that is suggestive of something, and it's worth including, in my opinion, in this article because it shows what I like to return to a lot that I don't think is talked about enough, is it shows a culture, right? 189 Christie, it seems like he's suggesting, speaking in code, something to indicate maybe what's happening where he's at that moment. I don't know. Again, not explicit in any way, wouldn't stand up in a court of law, nothing like that. But it's very interesting, it's very suggestive, and it's worth including in this article. However, he goes on to support the claim or the conclusion that could be drawn from this screenshot, tries to support it and paint it in a certain light by saying Epstein described the events that were happening at that time as crazy. And what would Epstein call crazy? I mean, we know what this guy was into. What kind of things would he call crazy? And frankly, we looked at the emails, and it was an instance where Crawford, I think Jamie Crawford, the author of the Substack article, was acting disingenuously. And the email chain in where Epstein does use the word crazy, but that's the only quote that Crawford provides. And here, I'm going to flash it on the screen. You can see here that the quote is literally one word. That's all that gets quoted is one word. That should be a red flag at any time when one word gets quoted and attributed to someone like Epstein. It's like, well, or anyone for that matter, you can paint that in a lot of different ways. You need to really quote more of the sentence in order to provide enough context. The fact that he didn't should have been a red flag. should have been a red flag, one that I didn't call out originally, but we did do the homework here on this one and go and investigate the emails. And it was clear that what Epstein, while he did say the word crazy, of course, not saying that Crawford lied here, it's very unclear as to what exactly he was talking about. It's just way too open-ended and broad to try and paint it in the light that he's painting it in. And I understand the argument he's making, because I think in a video prior to that, or maybe that same video, I made a similar argument about Moby, where they did quote Moby, again, much longer than one word. They've got, a short paragraph here by Moby, where Moby's saying something like, the level of degeneracy at the club is even a lot for me, and I'm a guy who's into degenerate activities and this, that, and the other. And I made the exact same argument that Crawford made in regards to the screenshot with 189 Christie, where Epstein's saying crazy, what must be crazy for him? I said the same thing about Moby. If a guy like Moby, who's a famous actor, DJ, music artist, who was huge in the 90s and the early 2000s, has a ton of money, has a ton of access, is himself admittedly a degenerate person, what must be going on at this club for him to go, this is a whole other level of degeneracy? I made that exact same argument when we came across the quote from Moby. So I understand what Mr. Crawford is trying to do. He's just doing it very poorly, unfortunately. And frankly, he's really grasping at straws here. And I don't know the man. I don't, want to accuse him of anything. I have a feeling he likely knows what he's doing, and is just unfortunately getting caught up with making his argument and not slowing down and really being critical enough. And that's, like I said, what I really want to bring to the table with this series, bringing context to these narratives, these stories, these theories, and bringing a critical lens so that we can be better and more authoritative when we talk about these kinds of things. Why? Because the more we can strengthen the quote-unquote, for lack of a better term, conspiracy narrative around events, people, etc., like Epstein, like 9/11, like JFK, like Iran-Contra, like insert whatever event you want, the better we can be about talking about these things, the less easy it will be to dismiss us, right? And that is what happens so often. We saw it in a clip in one of my reaction videos a few weeks ago. And if you haven't seen it, it's worth looking up. It's Hillary Clinton's reaction. She recently gave testimony around the Epstein files that were dropped. She gave testimony this year in 2026, like closed, open door testimony, but it wasn't like in front of Congress. It was some other version of that, right? I don't know the details or nuances of these things. Irrelevant. They recorded it, it's published, you can go find it on YouTube. Someone asks her about Pizzagate, and you can immediately see her lawyer, before she even responds, her lawyer interrupts and makes a whole big deal. You're asking her about Pizzagate, is that what you're really doing right now? Like da-da-da-da-da. And she finally responds, and this is ridiculous. This is a, this, that, and the other conspiracy theory, crazy online conspiracy theorists, right? And they don't answer the question at all. They just completely dismiss it. You're crazy, right? And that's my point, is if you let yourself go in trying to win an argument, trying to win a debate, or trying to win the fight, you let yourself get caught up in that part of it, then you end up doing things like what I think Jamie Crawford did here, which is include aspects of your argument that are very weak and leave you open to legitimate criticism by illegitimate people, by disingenuous parties, right? I don't think Hillary Clinton is someone that we should let off the hook, let's say, right? Forget about the politics of it, right? Like, she's been involved in a lot of things over the years. If you're not aware of that, you need to go do your homework. And it's perfectly okay to question her on anything. And they shouldn't be allowed to be able to dismiss these things. right? But because Pizzagate exploded into this idea of underground tunnels and they're eating kids and satanic rituals and all this goofy shit, now they can dismiss it and they don't have to take it seriously. And they don't even have to address anything because you're crazy and I'm a respectable, upstanding politician and member of society. I don't need to take this seriously because you're not a serious person. And so it completely allows them to skirt the idea of coded language, which is a very legitimate claim that's wrapped up in Pizzagate. I'm not saying that that is an indication of all of the other goofy stuff that comes along with the Pizzagate narrative. I'm just saying that there are serious questions that need to be addressed that never got addressed with that one. And the reason is because it got blown up into this goofy nonsense. And that's what we want to avoid doing. So when we see stuff like this in articles which are otherwise really interesting and really compelling, we want to call it out. And so that's what I really want to do with this series. That's what I've been trying to do. Whether I'm doing a good job or successful at it or not is another story. But that's really what we're trying to do here with this as we make our way through this documentary is, one, just share the story more, provide some context, which I've done in some of the earlier videos. If you're not exposed to this type of lifestyle, if you've never lived in a big city, thinking that a place like the Box even exists might be difficult to wrap your head around. Not that I'm special or anything like that, but I've spent most of my life near one big city or another on the West Coast and East Coast, and able to provide some context from that perspective, but really adding that critical lens, making sure we point out those areas of the argument in the article and the documentary where they're kind of stretching, they're kind of grasping at straws, so that we can be better as a community talking about these kinds of things. So with all of that being said, let's jump back in to Conspiracy Files documentary, The Epstein Club, the most disturbing deep dive on YouTube. Let's do it.
I'm Katie Ford. A December 1991 newspaper documented that
So this guy, Andre Balazs, I think he's one of the owners. Andre Balazs, daughter Lysandra Balazs, and co-owner of the Box, Sergey. I'm not sure how Balazs, I forget how he is involved. He's a proprietor. Okay, sorry. I'm just getting caught up here from where we were last time. And has a long history with the co-owner who's named Sergey Becker, or Serge. I don't know if Serge is the right way to pronounce that, but that's how Colin, the YouTuber's documentary we're watching, pronounced the name, but I think it's Sergey Becker. So Andre Balazs is just very closely associated with the ownership of the Box. And this section of the article is about Andre Balazs and his wife, Katie Ford.
Balazs and his wife, Katie Ford, were feting Ghislaine Maxwell, that's a quote, on her birthday, which is Christmas Day, at a nightclub in Aspen, along with another Epstein associate, Glenn Dubin. While Epstein isn't mentioned in this article, the recently released birthday book adds new...
Sorry, I gotta stop that. What does feting mean? I've never seen that word before. Feting is the act of honoring, entertaining, or celebrating someone with a lavish party or public acclaim. Is it feeding? I never know how to. Let me play it on Google here. Hold on a second.
Fading.
I don't know how to read with all the little symbols. I don't know what the little symbols mean. Fading. Never heard that word before. Okay, sorry. Just wanted to look that up, make sure I really understood what the quote was saying.
Context to this social gathering that took place on December 25th, 1991. The birthday book includes a picture of Epstein and Maxwell in a snowy environment and is labeled by Maxwell as the first date, Christmas 1991. This places Andre Balazs and Katie Ford with Maxwell on the same day as her first date with Epstein, less than 2 months after her father's death and her move to the US. So here's that article you can see here. Glenn Dubin was in the same area as Ghislaine Maxwell, Andre Balazs, Katie Ford. You can see this quote, they were feting Ghislaine Maxwell on her birthday, which is Christmas. And you can see here The first date, Christmas 1991. We've talked about this in the past. Here's Ghislaine and Jeffrey. So there's reasonable evidence that shows that Jeffrey Epstein was there that day, hanging out with Andre Balazs and Katie Ford and Ghislaine Maxwell, because she writes their first date is Christmas 1991, and it's reported in a local kind of newspaper section that Christmas 1991, Ghislaine was with Andre and Katie. So that's a curious connection there, once again showing a principal founder of the box having ties to Epstein over 10, almost 20 years prior. But Jamie continues. Back in 1988, 60 Minutes Australia produced...
I think it's also important to call out just the connection with Maxwell alone, because I think if you understand the history of Epstein, sure, he became the central figure, but a lot of, I think, how do I say this? I think a lot of his access to that world, so what he was likely doing is running some type of honeypot blackmail operation. That was what was going on with the girls. There's also a lot of claims that he was potentially he was involved in arms dealing at some point, because he had a relationship with a famous arms dealer. I can't remember their name. So there's that component of it. Supposedly he was this financial hitman type character, meaning he either helped, I can't recall exactly the details of this one, but he either could have helped wealthy people recover assets or hide them in ways that would avoid taxes, something like that. And I don't know all the details, but there is a financial component to Epstein as well. What were the financial? He wasn't this hedge fund guy. That's definitely not the case. Very clear at this point that he wasn't trading or involved in that type of finance. It seems he was providing some type of financial services to high net worth people, likely involving evading taxes or something like this. Recovering assets from countries where, maybe civil war broke out or something, right? Something along those lines. He's providing some type of financial services there. And a lot of that access became greater as he gets involved in the arms dealing, and that introduction was made by Maxwell's father. I forget his first name. But Ghislaine's dad is the one who kind of opens the doors for him, it seems like, while he was maybe knocking on the door already through some people like Barr and some other folks. It seems like he had some already powerful relationships. It really seems like Maxwell is the one that really opens the thing up for him. So while Colin and perhaps Crawford in the article are focused more on the involvement or the relationship of this Balazs character with Epstein, I think equally as damning, because we're going all the way back to 91 at this point in that photo that they're showing. I think, well, certainly we want to focus on Epstein to an extent. I think equally as damning is just the Maxwell connection, right? That should not be forgotten.
An investigative report called, quote, American Girls in Paris, which documented multiple allegations of Jean-Luc Brunel's towards American models in the French fashion industry. One of the interviewees in this report was Katie Ford's mother, Eileen Ford, who was the founder and executive of Ford Models, one of the first and one of the largest modeling agencies in the world. She is questioned about the fact that she would regularly send models from her agency to Brunel in Paris. One of the victims in the report said that Brunel's was an open secret that many people in the industry knew about. Ford claimed, with the benefit of plausible...
This is starting to make a little more sense to me. I'll be honest, I don't think I mentioned it in the other videos, but when I saw this guy, Andre Balazs, let me put him on the screen. Put the article on the screen here. Man, I can't stand fucking iOS. I cannot fucking stand iOS. I absolutely fucking hate it so much. Apple makes great devices from a hardware perspective, but God, is their software dog shit. Just basic shit. Like I can't fucking full screen the thing without it fucking taking over everything. God, I fucking hate it so much. Sorry. This is going to be a recurring issue on this segment of content. Probably get used to me bitching about Apple products. So yeah, like this is a perfect picture, I think, where when I saw this, I was like, you know, and no offense, but this guy's much better looking than his wife, significantly better looking, and that's often rare, right? It's not as uncommon to find a significantly more attractive woman with a man who's less, like that attractive disparity being in favor of the woman, where the woman is much more attractive than the man that she's with. I think it's much more common for women to find things attractive in men outside of physical aesthetic. Obviously, let's be grown-ups. Of course, women are also attracted to physical aspects of men. Sure, I'm not an idiot. I'm just saying that it's it's less uncommon. It's less of a big deal to see it the other way. When you see a really good-looking guy, especially someone at this level, right? We don't know who this guy is, but he's owns private hotel, like high-end hotelier. Someone who's around people at that level, you would expect him, especially if he's this good looking, like he's got the strong jawline, looks like he's a tall guy, he's got that, you know, real nice skin tone, you know, perfect teeth. You think this guy could get a more attractive woman. And so you got to ask yourself what's going on there, right? Especially when you start to think about the circles this guy runs in. He's running around this club called The Box. He's partying with Maxwell and Epstein and all these people. They're known to essay very good-looking women. So what is the deal here? And now you start to think, okay, her mom is connected to this modeling agency. Is that what's going on here? Is he getting access to models and other women through her? Now the dots are coming together a little bit more for me, where I go, okay, this couple makes a little bit more sense to me than they did initially. So yeah, I just wanted to call it out because I was like thinking about that. I wasn't going to bring it up, but it did almost immediately jump out at me. And like I said, I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted to talk about it, but as I start to learn more about these two, I go, there's another picture here to give her due. There's another picture here. She looks much cuter here. But God, they didn't do her any favors in this one, that's for sure. You know, he's much more along the lines of like what we would call traditionally attractive male. And she is not what you would call like traditionally attractive female. Which isn't to say maybe some people don't find attractive, right? Caveat. But just when you see it, attractive disparities leaning in favor of the man, often something else is going on there, or they're a high-level guy who has foregone those kinds of things. Like there are very good-looking, rich, powerful men in Hollywood who are with women that have just been with them forever, always support, right? Like I'm not discounting that. Of course it exists, right? I'm just saying it seems to be outside the usual, frankly, right? Say what you will what that means about men, but that's how I feel about it anyways. So as we learn more about their story, okay, the mom runs this Ford model agency, seemed to have been funneling women to Brunel. We know Brunel was doing all kinds of Epstein type activities, essaying women and models, died in similar fashion to Epstein in a French prison. Now we go, okay, similarly with Ghislaine, who, yeah, she kind of started off dating Epstein, but then became like his madam, and there's a weird relationship going on there. We don't know quite what is the deal there. where she's helping him get other women and essaying those women, is something similar going on. Allegedly for entertainment purposes. We lie on this channel. Nothing we say here is true. Is something similar going on with this Andre Balazs and his wife, Katie Ford, through the Ford modeling agency. Can't help but wonder.
Deniability that she had no idea about Brunel's abuse. Ford reportedly then told Brunel that after this investigation, she would no longer send him any more girls, quote, unless this all gets cleared up. And to finish this thought, a few years later in 1991, Katie Ford, who would go on to take over the family business at Ford Models, told reporters that all ties had been severed.
Yeah, so just to kind of round out what's being said here, supposedly Eileen Ford is the founder of Ford Models. Question about the fact that she would regularly send models from her agency to Brunel. One of the victims said in the report that Brunel's abuse was an open secret. I think that that's likely the case. Of course, Ford, we don't know which Ford she's talking about here, whether it's Katie Ford or Eileen Ford, but they're saying Ford claimed, with the benefit of plausible deniability, she had no idea about Brunel's abuse. We assume it's the mom who's running the Ford modeling agency. Ford reportedly then told Brunel that after this investigation, she would no longer send more girls unless this all gets cleared up. So that's where Colin is at right now in his documentary. And I tend to believe that it's likely true what the victim is saying, that this is an open secret. Same thing with Weinstein, same thing with Diddy, same thing with a lot of these people, right? Like, come on. They knew. They're not going to come out and admit it because then they're in legal liability, right? So you need to be a grown-up here and understand that of course they're going to deny it. Of course they're going to deny it, because if they don't deny it, then they're going to get sued. These are immoral people. They were involved from the get-go. But to think that they're going to now, once the guy is caught, that they're going to now act moral, of course not. They're going to avoid legal liability. So even if they weren't involved, even if they weren't they're that aware, or maybe loosely aware, whatever, they're going to deny, because no matter what, it opens them up to serious legal liability and restitution from the victims potentially, and they want to avoid that financial hit at a bare minimum. But almost certainly they were aware.
With Brunel when, quote, 60 Minutes basically exposed him as a sleazeball, end quote. But that's where it gets very, very interesting, right? 1991, Katie Ford told reporters she's cut all ties with Jean-Luc Brunel. The modeling agency that she's now in charge of was investigated as having sent tons of young girls to Jean-Luc Brunel, potentially knowing that they might be abused by this guy. I mean, I believe that they knew that that was what was going on, obviously. I mean, all the time we see these open secrets that finally are exposed by people outside of the industry. And that's a very curious link right there. The 1980s, Katie Ford's mom is running Ford Models and is investigated as having sent girls to Jean-Luc Brunel over in Paris, in France, that were abused. And then years later, Jean-Luc Brunel is literally best friends with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein and is involved in their empire. And somewhere in the middle there, between that expose and between when like the picture you're seeing on screen was taken with Jean-Luc Brunel on the plane with Epstein and Maxwell, somewhere in the middle there, Ghislaine Maxwell celebrates a birthday with Katie Ford, who's now running that same agency that was sending girls to Brunel. And according to the birthday book, Epstein was potentially there too. To me, that's pretty curious. That's a pretty curious detail that, once again, you don't see this stuff reported really on mainstream media. But Jamie continues, however, Katie Ford would go on to be found in Brunel's friend Jeffrey Epstein's Little Black Book. Her parents, Eileen and Jerry, contact information was also listed under Katie's name. Andre Balazs is also in the Little Black Book. And as you guys know, I have the Little Black Book here. I have my copy of it, which I use all the time in videos. Let's just take a look. We're looking for...
Where did he get that? Can you buy that? I'm looking this up right now. God, I can't spell. Can you buy Jeffrey Epstein's Little Black Book copy? It looks like you can. I need to get a copy of this too. His looks cooler. Where did he get that? I want to get that. Unredacted, enhanced. Yeah, what I'm seeing looks different. It doesn't look as cool. Is this it? Maybe not. A little black book. I don't know. I need to do some research on that because I want to get a copy of it.
Balats. Andre, let's see where he's at. So here's Andre Balats, found in the Black Book, my copy of the Black Book. And now let's find the F's so we can find Katie Ford. And there she is as well. Katie Ford. I mean, there are so many names listed in here that have just never really truly been investigated. It's crazy. So clearly Epstein knew Katie.
Yeah, I think that's kind of important to call out. That's what I was thinking there for a second, is not that they haven't been investigated. Excuse me. Not that they... That's something that I want to call out as well. It's not just that they haven't been investigated, it's that there's so many names in that book. It raises the question of what is it, right? Versus a couple of videos ago, maybe it was the last video, in Crawford's article, we had a list, and Maxwell and Epstein are exchanging emails. We saw at least one instance of this. He unfortunately didn't include more than one, so we don't know if that's the only one. But there's at least one instance of Maxwell and Epstein going back and forth about the list. They refer to the list as peeps, and peeps doesn't mean anything, right? Again, this isn't a smoking gun evidence, right? Like people, what does peeps mean? It's just, it's indicative of code, right? It's indicative of a culture. We don't know what it means, but it could mean something. So they're referring to these people as peeps, and it's a much smaller list. It's only like around 50-ish people. I didn't actually count. Crawford says it's 50. I didn't count. And they seem to be actively managing the list. And Maxwell sends here's the list of peeps, who should be added, removed, whatever. And Epstein responds back, take this person off, in fact, he says, take Trump off and add this person, add that person, whatever, right? So there's active management of a much smaller list. To me, is a lot more interesting. That book is giant. That could be anything, really. That could just be your typical, boomer Rolodex. I don't know what this supposed Black Book is. I don't know enough about the context. I think I know the gentleman who discovered it, and I forget his name, but he's been around and investigating not only Epstein, but also I think the Franklin scandal is the big one that he did. He's written some books on both of those events. I think he's the one who initially published the Black Book, but I can't say for certain. And but my question is Black Book sounds provocative, but in reality, I wonder, what really is it when you have that many people in there? Is it suspicious that Epstein has your information? It certainly could be. Certainly worth looking into. But just because someone like Epstein has your name in a book with your contact info, and you're, say for instance, a famous actor, that doesn't mean anything. It just means he wants to approach you, or a famous academic, or whatever the case may be, right? Unless you have an active relationship with him, I don't know that your name in the book really means anything as far as I'm concerned. Unless we have more context on what this book is, how it was found, who else is in it, which it, as Colin Brown said, so many of these people haven't been investigated. I don't know that they're worth investigating every single one of them. Every single one of them should be explained, but you can explain away a lot of those names likely by just saying this is someone that he wanted to target, Epstein wanted to target potentially. So there are explanations for this that are not, oh, they were involved in the PDF stuff. It could be anything, right? So I want to make that clear. This book to me is not particularly damning unless it comes along, like I said, with additional context, which as far as I'm aware, I have never heard. I hear the Black Book. I've heard about this book being talked about plenty of times. I've never heard any proper contextualization of this book be given. Again, where did it come from? How was it discovered? Who all is in it? Do we have any compelling theories about what this book is, what it was used for, what it indicates about who is in it? Because without that, you can easily explain away, like I said, as this being someone you wanted to target, or unless there's other proof of it indicating, unless there's other proof that that person had an existing relationship with Epstein, then it doesn't really mean anything without that context. And I think it's incredibly important. So, which is distinct from that other list. That other list is much smaller. That other list is being actively managed. So whoever is on that list is, right, again, can also be explained away, potentially, but to me is worth much more scrutiny than this Black Book. There's thousands of people, you're not going to do, no one's really going to do that work. I mean, I'm sure there's researchers out there who do that work for sure, but I'm saying that if you want somewhere to start, that list of 50 would be a better place to start. Who are these people? Can we identify patterns? It's a much narrower scope to get your head around and start to maybe put a picture together than this massive Black Book. That picture is going to be so vast. It's going to be much, much harder to get your arms around that bigger one just because of the scale. That list of 50 is a lot more intriguing to me. The fact that it's being actively managed is a lot more intriguing to me. I think that's where our eyeballs should be drawn to more than this little Black Book.
Ford. And he knew Andre Balazs. It's documented. It's in the Black Book. And you can even see here, this is the board of directors for the New York Academy of Art in the year 1987. Jeffrey Epstein right here listed directly underneath Andre Balazs, and just a few under that is Katie Ford. So, and co-chairman for this evening's event are Jeffrey Epstein. You can see right there. So, also at that same time that all of that was unfolding with Jean-Luc Brunel and Katie's mother and Ford Models, Jeffrey Epstein is serving on a board of directors with Katie Ford. And, you know, I don't know if they were married at the time, but either her husband or her future husband, Andre Balazs. So the connections there are provable. There's no way that you'd serve on a board of directors with someone and have never met them or interacted with them, especially for a highly esteemed thing like the New York Academy of Art. But Jamie continues, writing, Andre Balazs can also be seen with Ghislaine Maxwell in very intimate, chummy photographs spanning the 1990s and 2000s and reported to be at social gatherings.
I don't know that that's true, what he just said there. Putting that list back on the screen there. I can't say for certain how these boards work, so there's definitely more informed people out there who could provide better context than I can. That being said, just because they appear on this list, and I'm showing the list in front of you now on the screen, now obviously in the case of Balazs and Ford, they certainly do have a relationship with Epstein. So this is just a piece of a much bigger picture that's being painted for us. This is one paint stroke. So we're able to confirm that relationship by several different pieces. So that's not up for debate. I'm just saying because Fred Hughes, for instance, is also on this list with Epstein, doesn't mean they really have a relationship. I don't know for certain how the board of the New York Academy of Art works, but often these are low commitment. For things that I've been involved with, and I've never been involved with anything that's anywhere near as high level as this, or, you know, in the art world, but, you know, boards like this I've been involved at with universities, some high level alumni. Again, I've talked about it in the past, doesn't make me special, whatever. That's not what I'm saying, but I went to an Ivy League school. There was a whole lot of high-level people. I was involved in the alumni community, and I've been involved with boards with some pretty big names, and it's more about name recognition that these boards, the people who are running the Academy of Art, want your name to be on their board so that they can use your name as like a marketing tool. It's about name recognition and branding and that kind of stuff. It's very, very low commitment. It's possible Epstein never even showed up for a meeting for the New York Academy of Art because he was a board member. Like, he just paid his dues. They said, yeah, you're a board member. They send him emails. Maybe he occasionally sends in an email with a vote or something like that if there's something that, like, they need to vote on or whatever. But it's extremely, extremely often. I'm not saying this is definitely the case in terms of New York Academy of Art, because I don't have that context, that direct experience. You know, feel free to debate me in the comments if you want, but these things are often extremely low commitment and don't really suggest anything. So just because Barbara Guggenheim is on the list doesn't mean she has a relationship directly with Epstein. Doesn't mean that they don't. I'm just saying it doesn't mean that they do. So you need additional pieces of the puzzle. In the case of Balazs and Katie Ford, Andre Balazs and Katie Ford, we do have all of those other pieces. So this is just more evidence to sort of, you know, really nail down that picture, so to speak. I just want to point out that it is not indicative in any way that they do have a concrete relationship, which I think is, frankly, in contradiction to what Colin is saying in his video. I would disagree with him there.
Talking about places everybody has had sex. Balazs was reported to have escorted Maxwell around New York while Epstein was doing prison time.
These pictures, this is so weird to me that these are on Getty Images. Like, can you buy these pictures? Like, is Getty Images trying to profit off of pictures of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein? That's so bizarre to me. How gross. Getty is gross, dude. Like, I don't like them at all. Like, any of these websites that try to make money off of content that, frankly, you could just get for free, it's like you're lame. Like, there's a lot of these music websites too, now that I'm trying to do content creation, that do this. It's like it's like ad-free, like royalty music and stuff like that, and then they try to charge you a subscription to access the ad-free music. It's like, it's ad-free music, bro. Like, it is free on a different website. You're just trying to charge for it. Like, you know, I'm not saying you shouldn't get paid for the work that you do, but also just because you did work doesn't mean you should get paid. If you spend your time digging holes in your backyard and say, oh, I did work, I deserve payment. And no one wanted you to do that, right? No one asked you to go make this website of royalty-free music. The fact that you did it doesn't mean I should have to pay you now. Same thing with Getty Images. Like, they're just, it's such a shitty website. You just throw your watermark on it and now we have to pay you for these pictures. And the fact that you're making money off of pictures of these people is gross.
Here's one picture of Andre and Ghislaine. Here's another picture of Andre and Ghislaine. Here's another picture of Andre and Ghislaine hugging. Here's another picture of Andre and Ghislaine. And there are tons of pictures of them together. And keep in mind, Andre is one of the co-owners of the Box nightclub. In the infamous footage of Prince Andrew seeing a woman out of Epstein's New York townhouse, that woman is Catherine Keating, who reportedly had just moved from Australia to New York due to her relationship with Andre Balazs. Keating would go on to interview Maxwell in a video production about her bizarre and suspect ocean charity, the Terramar Project. So here's Prince Andrew, the boogeyman himself. Here's Catherine Keating. Here is Catherine Keating with Andre Balazs. They were in a relationship at the time. She's at Epstein's house with Prince Andrew. Here's Epstein's buddy and Ghislaine's buddy. And then, yeah, and we're going to talk about this later, but this is an actual full-on interview with Ghislaine Maxwell talking about the ocean and their Terramar project. That's something that I'm going to do a deep dive video on soon because it's crazy. But yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell. Right there, being interviewed about her love for the ocean. But Jamie continues. Andre Balazs definitively continued his relationship.
I think Jamie Crawford is talking about Andre Balazs and Katie Ford because they have an existing relationship with Jean-Luc Brunel, long-standing relationship with Epstein, and they're major proprietors of the Box, which is indicative of not only are the Epstein types funding this club, but they're also attending the club as regulars, right? So this is the crowd that's being attracted here. I think that's the argument that Jamie Crawford is going after. I just think Colin Browen, who's the one who's doing this YouTube documentary, Conspiracy Files, is got mistaken there, because he does. I don't think he says anywhere in the article that Bolas actually owns it. So I just want to be clear there.
Epstein after he was convicted and served his sentence. A series of recently released emails show that Epstein connected Andre Balazs with Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, and the three of them had breakfast together on May 2nd, 2011. In one of the emails to bin Sulayem, Epstein
also has a long, seems to have a very sketchy history. He's a high-level guy who is connected to a lot of celebrities through his ownership of extravagant hotels. Here in the earliest part of the article, when they moved to Andre Balazs and Katie Ford, as previously mentioned, one of the first private owned photographed events to take place at the box was the 50th birthday of luxury hotelier Andre Balazs, who through his ownership of extravagant hotels has been described as a landlord of celebrity debauchery. Balazs has had accusations of sexual misconduct made by many women, including Jason Bateman's wife, Amanda Anka. So, yeah, just to clarify, I think Colin either misremembered or it is a little unclear as to why he starts talking about him, but it's because of this early connection to the box, frequent connection to the box, frequent connection to Epstein and Maxwell, and they're just painting a bigger picture here to include not just ownership, but major proprietors.
His friend Andre Balazs as, quote, a lot of fun. Epstein and Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem shared many lewd and sentimental emails over the years. Epstein once wrote to bin Sulayem, "You are one of my..."
Proprietor is the owner. I keep using the word proprietor wrong. I think that's like second or third time I've used it wrong in this video. I got it incorrect. Proprietor is the owner. I thought it meant like the customer. What is the opposite of proprietor? Yeah, I don't know what word I'm thinking of that is similar to proprietor but means customer, but I've used that word incorrectly several times throughout this video. So sticking with the theme of being critical here, right? We gotta be critical of ourselves as well. To clarify, he is not the proprietor. I used that word incorrectly. He is a client. He is a frequent supporter and an attendee of the box. And I think this, including him in this article, is Jamie Crawford's way of painting a broader picture that expands beyond just Epstein and whatever ownership structure is involved in the box. So now we're also we've included the advisory board, and now we're including high-level customers.
Most trusted friends in every sense of the word. You have never let me down, not once, not half of once, and I greatly appreciate the time we spend together. To which bin Sulayem replied, "Thank you, my friend. I am off the sample, a fresh 100% female Russian at my yacht." And you can see here's a photo of Epstein and bin Sulayem cooking. I've covered some of their messages back and forth before. It's pretty disturbing stuff that they've told each other. Epstein once told a reporter that he knew the owner of the deep water port of Djibouti on the Horn of Africa, bin Sulayem, so well that Epstein was basically in charge of it. And to conceal his own name when buying his second island, Great St. James, he did it in bin Sulayem's name. After breakfast that morning with Andre Balazs,
I think Colin jumped around this article a little bit. So after the pictures, so we looked at the pictures. I was talking crap about Getty Images. We looked at the pictures. Again, they show the board. They're establishing the connection between Andre Balazs and Katie Ford and Maxwell and Epstein and Brunel, like they're painting this history and the many layers of connection between these people. That's what this is doing. And as he goes through that, he's got the pictures here of him and Maxwell together. There's this portion that Colin Brown didn't go into. In the infamous footage of Prince Andrew seeing a woman out of Epstein's New York townhouse, that woman is Catherine Keating, who reportedly had just moved from Australia to New York due to her relationship with Balazs. Keating would go on to interview Maxwell in a video production about her bizarre and suspect ocean charity, the Tara Mar Project. So I'm just wondering, okay, here is this Catherine Keating woman. I didn't mean to do that. Balazs definitely continued his relationship with Epstein after he was convicted and served his sentence. A series of recently released emails show that Epstein connected Balazs with Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, and the three of them had breakfast together on May 2nd, 2011. On the emails to bin Sulayem, Epstein described his friend Balazs as a lot of fun. So again, they're demonstrating not only did these guys know each other, this isn't a situation that you can write off as, hey, I saw him at the box once. I went because I heard it was a crazy club. I wanted to go check it out. What do I know? All of a sudden, this guy Epstein's there. Didn't really know him, so people took some pictures of us, and now I'm being plastered as a PDF guy. No, that's not what's happening here. This is clearly someone who has a very deep relationship with Epstein and Maxwell, potentially Jean-Luc Brunel, and now this highly questionable guy Sulayem, and potentially a connection to Mr. Andrew there. So we're painting a picture of this web of connections between all of these people and how they're all connected to this place called the Box. And what kind of conclusions can we draw from that? Sort of birds of a feather type conclusions, right? So I just wanted to point that out. The Prince Andrew connection specifically.
Balazs and Sultan bin Sulayem, Epstein would attend a Vogue party that night at Andre Balazs' Boom Boom Room on top of the Standard Hotel and email him the next day thanking him for his hospitality. Epstein was then invited to Chelsea Handler's book launch at Andre Balazs' Boom Boom Room that was scheduled to happen just a few days later on May 7th, 2011. After Chelsea Handler went with Katie Couric to a now infamous dinner party at Epstein's New York townhouse in December 2010, she publicly began dating Andre Balazs a month later in January 2011. And here's Chelsea Handler with Andre Balazs, a very, very close friend of Jeffrey Epstein's. She dated him. Epstein was invited to her book launch. She attended a dinner at Epstein's townhouse. And Chelsea just caught...
I just want to clarify, because that sentence I don't think is super clear, not the best written sentence in the world. Comedian, he does link to a Daily News article. Let me show that on the screen here. Comedian Chelsea Handler gets cozy with hotelier, that's a hard word to say, hotelier Andre Balazs ditches rapper 50 Cent at Sundance. So she was romantically involved, or at least they're suggesting that they were. I don't know. Jesus, what a bizarre way to say that. I'm not gonna read all this article. Let's just say that it looks, assuming that they were caught kissing, based on that first sentence. So who knows, boyfriend, whatever, irrelevant. There was some type of romantic involvement between these two. I just want to point that out because I'm 100% biased here, but I cannot stand Chelsea Handler. Like, she's like gone on this sort of morality crusade on more than one occasion, trying to be, super woke with the race stuff. And what she called in, I think it was it 50 Cent, or I don't think it was 50 Cent. It might have been some other guy. She's dated some black guy in the past, and like when she was young, I think it was before being famous, and she was like trying to call out all the disparities they went through, like in some weird interview, and she was always trying to be all, critical of, some of the more, outspoken comics like Tony Hinchcliffe and stuff like that, who say, controversial things. But it's like, there's this great joke of Jim Jeffries, who said, people give him a bad time or a hard time for, having dirty comedy. And who always kept it clean was Cosby, right? It's like, okay, so these guys that are like so obsessed with appearing a certain way in public are often behind closed doors real scumbags. These are the people you should really be watching out for. And the fact that she's openly involved with this guy who's got a clear reputation, and I think Handler has also, again, all this is alleged for entertainment purposes only. Pretty sure she has allegedly attended more than one event with Epstein. It might have been in his home, and it was like a very small, intimate dinner party with like a handful of people. And this person is criticizing others about moral conduct. Give me a break, folks.
Shit for this during the roast of Kevin Hart, but I didn't know that the connections were this strong. To continue, Maria Farmer, one of the most prominent Epstein survivors and the first one to report him to the FBI, briefly yet passionately brought up the once married couple Katie Ford and Andre Balazs in a conversation with Whitney Webb. Farmer talks about a time she walked into Epstein's office when Ford and Balazs were in there.
Just stopping right here. If you don't know who Whitney Webb is, you need to go do your homework. Go find Whitney Webb on the internet right now. She is pretty much the preeminent researcher on Epstein, and as well as some other subjects, but she is basically the authority on Epstein as far as I'm concerned. And she is an independent, quote unquote, quasi-independent journalist. She works for like an alternative outlet, let's say, called Unlimited Hangout. And I don't think they have a hard copy edition or anything like that, so you can't like sign up for their newspaper. This is Unlimited Hangout, unlimitedhangout.com, and Whitney Webb is, as you can see right here, one of their featured journalists. And she does a ton of stuff. I don't know her relationship, the details of her relationship to this site, Unlimited Hangout. She might be part of the owner or something like that. But I think other people are involved as well. So this website is incredible source of information. They do phenomenal work. Whitney, I love watching interviews of hers because I love the details and all of the information and painting the big picture with all the pieces. I love that stuff. As you can tell, I talk a lot. She talks a lot, and at a much higher level than I do, much, much higher. And she can just recall facts off the top of her head and dates and names, and it's incredible. If you've never seen, I'm sure most people have seen her interviews, but she's done a ton of interviews on YouTube with a bunch of different outlets. Go watch her stuff. And if you can muscle through, buy her book. It's a 2-series book on Amazon. This is basically the book on Epstein, and it comes in 2 volumes. You can see I've already got it, had it years ago. Volume 1 and then Volume 2. One Nation Under Blackmail is the book. And buddy, this book, I haven't read it, I'll be honest with you. I've tried on multiple occasions, and it's like, it's homework, man. This is like being back in university, being back in high school, and like trying to read like one of these books that's just like, oh my God, I want to blow my brains out. Every time not that she's a bad writer or a bad researcher or anything like that, it's just so dense, because she does incredible work. All of the answers are right here in this book. If you really have the stomach for it, I highly encourage anyone to buy this book, read your way through it, take lots of notes because you're going to need it. My biggest criticism of Whitney and other researchers like her is that they make their work so inaccessible, which I don't blame them. You need some authors out there doing that type of work. But for instance, comparing this to Chaos by Tom O'Neill, I did read this whole book, and it's phenomenally well written. Tom O'Neill is more of a pop journalist, I would say. I think he wrote for like the Rolling Stone or something like that when they put him on this article. And then this article, he was supposed to write one article about Charles Manson and it turned into like a 20-year project. And ultimately, he wrote this phenomenal book, and it also turned into a Netflix documentary. And this book is incredible. You can see I also own this one, purchased it back in 2024. And this one I actually read through because this is a much more digestible read. Compared with all due respect to Whitney Webb, I'm a tremendous fan of hers. Compared to her book, which it's like, holy cow, within like 3 pages, you're like, man, I'm lost. I got to go back and take notes. Like I'm lost. Because there's so many names and dates and boom, 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 boom. And you're just like, what? I forgot what happened 2 pages ago. Like versus Tom O'Neill's, it's a little bit, like I said, just more digestible. That would be my biggest complaint about folks like Whitney Webb. The gentleman who wrote the book on the Franklin scandal, I can't remember his name, I mentioned him I think earlier, or it might have been in one of the other videos I filmed today, and I can't remember his name, but he's like the preeminent guy on the Franklin scandal. I think he has a similar issue. Sometimes they're a little bit dry, a little bit monotone, and they don't know how to tell a story as well. Again, this is a balancing act, I think, between, I think Tom O'Neill's version is maybe too light on some of these things, and it's too much story, too much narrative, and Whitney and this other guy from the Franklin scandal represent the other extreme of that, where it's not enough narrative, too much facts, dates, and names, and a really dry, difficult read. And I get it, you need kind of both, and it's difficult to balance between that spectrum. But my biggest complaint about the conspiracy stuff is I think we need to start thinking beyond books and podcasts and interviews and start thinking about how to really parse this information in a better fashion. And long run, I'd love to see my channel go in that direction and be the person to do that. But my vision for that is pretty big and would take a lot of effort that I don't know if I have the time for or the skills for, frankly, and might need to work with some folks. But I'd love to, to see like build a website off of Whitney Webb's book and just, here's all of the people, here's all the dates and names and how they're connected. And you can kind of zoom in and zoom out and like really make it interactive and visual across a timeline, and how all the things are connected and build on one another. Because her book starts back in the 40s, like back in World War II, and she's going all the way back to World War II to lay the context for Epstein. And it's important that you do that, but it's really difficult to maintain all of these different things in your head just from reading. And I personally, I'm a visual learner, so I would love to make that contribution to the community. But like I said, it's quite an undertaking that I don't know that I'm qualified or ready for or have the time for, but something that I do think is needed, because this work specifically is one that I think is tremendously important. The picture that she paints, I think, is a theory that, frankly, if our society was functioning in a healthy manner, this would be taught in school. Frankly, it should be. Unfortunately, that's not the way our society works, and probably never will. But that's how important it is. Like, this should be mandatory reading for everyone. And if you haven't read it, I get it, and neither have I. But go listen to a bunch of her podcasts. I have listened to hours and hours and hours of Whitney talking. And every time someone interviews her and it drops, I'm like, right there, man, give me her. That's my only complaint about Whitney Webb is I'm a big audio visual guy. Like, I need to see it. That's why I love documentaries. That's easier for me to intake the information. Reading, I need it to be entertaining. And if it's too dense, if it's too dry, you'll lose me real fast. Plus, a lot of my reading time is spent on reading books for entertainment. That's one of my great hobbies. So, when I find myself reading, I find myself picking up, fantasy novels and stuff. Game of Thrones, not One Nation Under Blackmail. As much as I do like to collect these books and support the work, I have a ton of different books like this, but I very rarely get through any of them, unfortunately. They're more sort of shelf trophies than anything. But do want to support that work. And for Whitney specifically, God, would I love to see a podcast from her or Unlimited Hangout. I'd love to see them do more of that type of work. Because Whitney, if you've seen her podcasts, she will go do an interview and the interviewer will ask one question and she'll talk for like 30 minutes on that one question because she's so... It's just tremendous. Like her mind is so powerful and she remembers the dates and the names of the operations and all these facts across history and how they all connect and why it's important to paint this context to understand Epstein properly. And it's just incredible. It's incredible. And personally, I like I said, I can't read it for very long without falling asleep, but I can listen to it for hours. And I would love for her to do like a weekly podcast. Just drop a video once a week. And I think she should just make her way through her book. And honestly, I've thought about doing that for her channel, just trying to make her way through her book as part of trying to maybe do content on it. Maybe I will, I don't know. But if you haven't heard of Whitney, I'm looking at Leslie Wexner's name. If you haven't heard of Whitney Webb, definitely go check her out. Go buy the book. Another one, like Jamie Crawford, who's out there doing the real investigative work, who's really down in the trenches, who's putting themselves at risk in ways that most of us aren't, who are just on our phones watching this stuff from the sidelines, myself included. I think Colin Brown, who does better content than I do, I don't know that any of it includes actual investigative work. Although I have seen him do some content where like he goes out to be on location I saw some stuff for the serial killer in Northern California, San Francisco area, Zodiac. He did some stuff where he was like on site in California, and I think it was for his Paranormal Files channel because they were doing like readings and stuff like that, trying to see if there was spirits there. So I don't want to dismiss his content. But that being said, him, like myself, we're not in the trenches risking lawsuits the way Jamie Crawford is, the way Whitney Webb is. I mean, Whitney Webb's at the level of they may do something, you know what I mean? So, she's got to be really careful about that. But some of the most incredible content you'll ever get is from Whitney's interviews. So go check her out. We're going to stop there. I'm seeing my camera blink here. I'm starting to run out of space in my memory card. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We are very, very... God, I hate iOS so much, man. Very slowly making our way. We're almost at the hour mark. I think we're in part 5. 5 episodes to get through an hour's documentary. I've done 5, almost hour-long episodes just talking. But I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I think what would be most helpful is, are you enjoying this type of content, and should I continue down this road, or how might we make this better for the audience? I don't want to be doing content that no one's interested in. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Like, subscribe. All the engagement means the world to me. Your support is critical at this stage. I'm kind of on the ground level. Help me build this thing up. I got big plans for the future, and I want you guys to be a part of it. So with that being said, we'll end it there for the day. We'll be back next time with another one. Thanks, guys.